We're less than a month away from the launch of Metroid Dread, and since I'm in the mood to redo some more SGB reviews, let's start tackling Metroid next. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time, easily a part of my personal Mount Rushmore of gaming, next to Sonic, Mario, and Final Fantasy. The term Metroidvania is getting a little antiquated, isn't it? And when the hell has there been another Castlevania game? No, this doesn't count. It doesn't. It's not called Castlevania. Eat my ass. It's funny though, because Metroid remains one of my favorite franchises of all time, but unlike other games, the Metroid series was always something I enjoyed in isolation. I mean, you guys all know I love this series, and if you didn't, check my reaction to the reveal of Metroid Dread, now you do. And like some of my other favorite video games, Metroid was there for me since early childhood, though I have been familiar with Samus Aran's space adventures since the first game thanks to my uncle, of course. Another tick for the uncle count. And Nintendo is adamant on keeping the momentum going with their launch of the Famicom Disk System in Japan and the Nintendo Entertainment System elsewhere. They had Super Mario Bros. Setting new standards for the 2D platformer, and The Legend of Zelda was taking players through parts unknown in a grand adventure with a near-useless gray block for a map. Okay, I'll stop being petty. Back then, Samus's true identity was kept tight-lipped. The English manual referred to her as a he. Over in Japan, it was the same deal. She even had some scantily clad space babes cheering her on before setting off. See, no woman will ever be caught in this scenario. But those who got the game and managed to complete it under a certain time would be thrown for a loop when they saw that armor come off, and instead of a grizzled man or even an exposed interior of a robot. I would have loved to see that shit. Within the game, it's a little more bare bones. You gotta defeat the Metroid on the planet Zebeth. The Metroid, just the one. Though that is something mentioned in the manual. The pirates want to multiply the Metroid they stole using science juice or something like that. Planet Zebeth, though, not sure what happened there. Destroy the mother brain, the mechanical life vein, yours truly, the Galaxy Federal Police M510. I never knew what that number was supposed to signify. Maybe their sector? I'm not sure. That's it though, you hit start, no intro, no other cutscene, you're just thrown into the game. Best of luck, Space Warrior. There ain't no space pirates here unless, do we count Kraid? I always took him as an enforcer for Mother Brain, but not an actual space pirate. I don't know, maybe his fake clone is a pirate? He is stealing Kraid's look, so that qualifies. Yeah, pirate steal. This tangent's dumb. And that this here is not the Chozo statue telling you to hold this L, it's just a long beam, because without this, Samus's default gun can't even travel across the entire screen. This planet's rocking some serious fucking wind resistance. You also got no map, so you either take the effort to memorize where you've been and haven't in a game that's incredibly guilty of copy and paste level structure, or you just save yourself some time and get a map from online, because baby ain't got time to meander needlessly. Gotta be faster than that. Gotta be faster than that. You can either get a health drop or missile drop depending on the frame you killed the enemy, but casual players ain't gonna know that shit. I sure as fuck didn't know that until looking it up. As far as I was aware for this playthrough and the other times I played this beforehand, I thought these assholes were just being super stingy or I had the shittiest luck. I don't know, man, some sort of number counter had to have gotten stuck because I was getting nothing but health drops all the goddamn time. Like, this sucks. And what the fuck is this running animation? She looks like she's doing a chicken strut. Appropriate, I guess. We'll get there later. Later on, though, I'm relying on the screw attack to kill most things. It turns Samus's somersault into a sweet rave party of death that one-shots almost everything that isn't a boss. Now, I don't know why the fuck it's called the screw attack, but the screw party is accurate when I think of what I'm doing to these guys. Both of these guys make some strange noises, though, especially in the Famicom version. Lots of things make strange noises in this game. It's sort of startling. Check out the Metroids in the Famicom. That's gotta be the actual sound of hell. I'd rather just listen to the NES version. Seriously, that's just the roulette wheel from Press Your Luck. It will revive peace in the space, might be invaded by the other Metroid. Shit, I guess we missed one. Pray for a true peace in the space. Damn, you know, I keep forgetting just how fucking large Samus's head was in the original game. I know, 8-bit constraints and all that, but this almost looks nothing like the manual art or any other concept art for that matter. It looks like a rubber suit. 2 bulbous shoulders, a large head, 2 pixels dedicated to her ass. Looks damn weird when drawn to life, I'll tell you that now. I gave it a shot, but I will say, that is a nice ass. There are some passwords that are just fucking bizarre though. Depending on the version you're playing, try out Engage Ridley motherfucker. Most times it just causes a reset or crashes the console if you're emulating it. But other times it can cause shit like this to happen. Trapped in a single screen, wrapping around the edges like Mario Brothers, which is appropriate, I guess. This was made by Nintendo R&D 1. My absolute favorite password though, one I was actually just made aware of recently, was this one. Mother Brain? Fucking toast. That's So you started Torian, no armor. It makes this part in Torian a huge pain in the ass, actually. And then when you get to Mother Brain, she's already dead, leaving you to just exit at your leisure. Where Samus will then proceed to cry in the end screen. It's kind of creepy. That's kind of shit you read in ghost stories. What is this password doing to get such a result? Well, out of curiosity, I went and contacted my friend Experiment to enlighten me on the subject. What the hell is happening here?
Whoops, wrong language. When Metroid was converted from a disk system to NES game, they needed a way to handle the different variables that was once stored as save data on the disk, so the programmer, Tohu Narito, who converted the game, devised the password system. The remaining bits are used to encrypt and verify the checksum so that this password is legitimate. Meaning that, with a little give or take here and there, that means there are a total of 2 to the power of 136 possible passwords you can use. Just don't let your calculator know, it might freak out a little bit. So every time you're putting in a text, number, or symbol for a password, you are effectively programming the game itself in a way very similar to how Game Genie codes work, which is why certain passwords can break the game in unpredictable ways. The famous Narpus Sword or NAR password is the only password that exists outside of the system, as it's hard-coded into the game to serve as a debug mode. Now, the password Mother Brain fucking toast always produces the worst ending because of the 2 game tick values of the password, which tells the game how long you've been playing. In this case, it's roughly 2,861,643,271 ticks. Or for the human brain, that basically means, rounding it up a little bit, 314.5 years of active game time. So yes, Samus defeats Mother Brain by doing absolutely nothing.
Holy shit, so we straight... So you remember the end, the old guy from Snake Eater, how you could win that battle by doing nothing for like a week or something like that? This is a little more extreme, but that shit's hilarious. Thank you, Experiment. Much appreciated, man.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. Oh, by the way, I got your commission order for that, thing you requested.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but it's gonna be a while before it's ready. Give or take a year, maybe more.
I'm a patient man. But thanks again, Experiment. I'll chat with you later. Once more developed by Nintendo R&D 1, Samus was going handheld after a successful debut on the NES. Metroid wasn't pulling in Mario or Zelda numbers, and spoiler warning, the series will never even get close, but over 2.5 million copies sold wasn't something to scoff at in the late 80s. But it's funny because when I think of Metroid 2, I don't immediately think of the Game Boy per se, rather the Super Game Boy, the peripheral for the Super Nintendo that allowed you to play Game Boy games on the console, and in color to boot, so you no longer needed to concuss yourself like this dumbass here. Metroid 2 was the game showcased on the box art, despite the game not getting any enhancements, strangely enough. You know, Pokemon got those cool borders and expanded color palette, and Donkey Kong 94 got some updated sounds and that awesome arcade border. Metroid 2? Nothing outside what you can already do with the Super Game Boy options available. Speaking of, let's handle that real quick. I hate this default teal background on the Super Game Boy. I left it as is in the SGB review, not this time. So we're gonna go to the options here, change that to black. That's it. Everything else is cool. Now it looks like we're delving into some sinister caverns here, and I do apologize for those watching this on mobile devices. I was debating whether I should just zoom in on the screen, but I didn't want to ruin the Super Game Boy vibe. You gotta have that obnoxious gray border, and I didn't feel like using the other borders. It's my video, I make the rules. But not long into Samus's expedition into the planet's caverns, you learn why these guys probably died. Those Metroids, they're beginning to evolve, and wouldn't you know it, these suckers are now immune to freezing and can only be taken down with concussive force, so either the Federation has potatoes for missiles, or they just don't compare to Samus's arsenal. I'm willing to bet it's the latter. I love Samus's new sprite work in this. For the Game Boy, this was considered incredibly detailed. The chicken walk is gone, she's more realistically proportioned, no more protruding 2 pixels of ass here. And because this game was originally black and white, this was the game that gave her the iconic shoulder pads when getting the Various suit, to signify the upgraded armor. You could fit a week's worth of lunches in there, they're so goddamn large, but this is the Various suit design I know and love, and we have Metroid 2 to thank for that. The sprite is a little too large for my liking. I think it would have helped if Samus was just a bit smaller. And I'm not talking Mario and Super Mario Land small, which coincidentally was also another game developed by Nintendo R&D 1. You think if you beat the game fast enough there, you get Mario in a 2-piece?
I'm going to fly for you.
And compared to the NES game, Samus can crouch down now and take out grounded targets easier with her gun, and she can now aim straight down. Diagonal aiming, though, still not a thing here, strangely. Did R&D 1 ever play Contra? What's happening here? And as for mobility, this was the game to introduce the spider ball. With this, Samus can cling onto walls and reach heights she couldn't otherwise, traveling at a pace I can only describe as slow as balls, or ball. In the original game it had novelty, but it's quickly brushed aside once you get the high jump boots and the new space jump. Forget your basic double jumps and shit, this lets Samus jump continuously as many times as she wants as long as you got the rhythm down, or until the game says, nah, that's enough. Not to mention some of the world's slowest means of progression in this game's opening hours, so I tell you, traveling up these walls and ceilings with the spider ball is just peak adventuring, ladies and gentlemen. And I just love how using bombs cancels the whole thing, making me fall on my ass when I didn't want to. Love that shit. No, I don't. Okay, so with that said, AM2R. I know it's been legally taken down by Nintendo, but I'll just say it took me less than a minute to find a download link with a simple Google search. Now I did that because I heard under the table this game was getting updates and modifications. Ooh, you sneaky devils you. But I don't think creator Milton Gossi had anything to do with that. I don't think he would take the risk. Now that he has his foot in the door in official game design, and good for him, you know, that dude is now creating games and making legitimate money for once. Good shit, man, congratulations. But let's see, as of version, what was it, 1.5.5, there's also this new fusion mode where everything hurts and I hate it. Samus is so fucking fragile here, and I know that was a thing in Metroid Fusion, we'll get there, but I'm getting fucking demolished by the first few Alpha Metroids. Shit sucks. I don't see myself conquering this mode anytime soon. I'll tell you that now. There isn't much I can say differently now that I haven't already said in the original review. So this is one of those cases where I'll save you time just linking to my previous review with the card up top. Most of my notes I left from my editor are just timestamps of me getting specific items for the sake of footage. A sign of laziness, or am I tricking you into clicking more on my videos so that I slowly consume your recommendation feed? As for the official remake of Metroid 2, Samus Returns, this is one I was really looking forward to revisiting ever since it was confirmed that Mercury Steam, the ones in charge of this, was coming back to develop Metroid Dread. God, I can't wait. God, I hope it's good. And what's Diggernon's deal anyway? He takes my shit without asking. He tries to kill me multiple times beforehand in these do-or-die auto-scrollers. I am glad Samus ruptures his fucking face in without so much as batting an eye. You go, Samus. Hot damn. The last boss against Ridley is so fucking incredible. I know it comes out of nowhere, and that's why to some it doesn't really fit, and that's fair. Part of me even agrees with that. Sort of retroactively diminishes his return in Super Metroid. But this is the best Ridley fight in the series. I mean it, it's better than Meta Ridley and Prime, better than Other M. This shit rocks. It's super intense, requires just the right amount of reflexes and dexterity, with nothing being unfair I find, and how the baby Metroid occasionally steps in and gives you help for the next phase, and how Ridley just continuously adds more and more shit for you to deal with, all while remaining balanced. If every boss in the upcoming Dread is like this, we're in good fucking hands. Major kudos to Mercury Steam for managing to pull this off. It's such a good bridge between Metroid 2 and Super, and I love how Ridley still has these pieces of this robotic meta design from Prime, which I think is like the first time ever the mainline series and Prime have officially closed the gap. Yeah, that shit's cool. This encounter alone, endgame or otherwise, increases the game's value for me. The best thing about Samus Returns easily. Oh, I can't wait for Dread. I can't wait for Dread. Thank you all for watching, and take care. This was a really long runoff, like just one shot, and forgive me if I fucked up the ending there, but it happens. At least my editor will be happy about it. I think, I don't know. As soon as I first laid eyes on it on the TV, now that was a game I really wanted to play. A game so big, so intense, it transformed a Doberman into a whimpering Chihuahua. That was Super Metroid, the next endeavor of Nintendo R&D 1. That's a strange hieroglyph. This was also the first Metroid to be scored by Kenji Yamamoto. No, not that Kenji Yamamoto. The other Kenji Yamamoto. The one that didn't plagiarize songs I still like listening to. The chief of Galactic Federation Police named Hardy, who's the most cartoonish, bumbling oaf that is so ill-fitting for the Metroid series. He's fat, and he loves to eat. Laugh, you chuckle fucks. It sure as shit explains why the Federation Police can be so incompetent, but I like to think it's not because of this lazy douche. No, Keaton's pretty cool though. The chairman of the Federation doesn't take to Hardy's shit and respects Samus a great deal. These two motherfuckers killed a baby Metroid near the end of the comic. Yeah, one of the most iconic moments in the endgame, where the baby saves Samus and gives her the Hyper Beam, is instead handled in such an anticlimactic way here. They see the Metroid, they think it's evil, they zap it, and that's it. It's just... Metroid always was a series that made more of an impact in the West than in the East, so when they eventually started fleshing Samus out in later games, I guess they figured, sure, let's just take some elements from the Nintendo Power comic, but not everything. Who gives a fuck about Hardy? He's fat! Sarah's station is soon under attack by space pirates, leaving everyone inside dead. It's a haunting scene to stumble upon starting off. It's something I didn't really notice in the opening title when I first played this game as a kid, but I get here in the actual game and I'm like, oh, those are bodies. I'm staring at corpses. Anyway, look, you gotta understand, I was already playing Mortal Kombat around this time, so this was nothing to me. After exploring the barren station, Samus manages to find the baby Metroid safe and sound, but a much larger Ridley makes a surprising return. Seriously, Ridley's been eating his Wheaties. He also lost all of his metal pieces after Samus returns. He was wearing weighted clothing the whole time and just said that fight didn't fucking count. Gonna cry foul though, these platforms were sure as shit not this wide in the NES game. You can't retcon that pain away, no sir. And check the flashback in the opening. Samus couldn't aim diagonally in Metroid 2. Samus is already embellishing past adventures. You're full of shit, Samus. Now look at this, you can even find the morph ball in the same place as before. Now what happened to your upgrades beforehand?
Shut up!
Thank you, Rucksack. That's just something you'll have to accept with this series. It's rare that Samus keeps most if not all of her things between games. You'd think a bounty hunter will welcome an increased arsenal for easier jobs, but that isn't the case. They normally try and justify this, however stupid it may be, with different reasons. A parasite infection, getting bombarded by insects, someone saying no. Here though, she just doesn't have her things, which is especially more egregious when you throw Samus Returns into the mix, which ends right before the events of Super Metroid kick off. Where did all your shit go, Samus? What the fuck? Did her subscription run out and forgot to renew? This is the future, ladies and gentlemen. It's great seeing it go from shooting lemons to an eventual spiral of death that pierces walls as well as enemies. But if you want, you can head into the status screen and turn some of them off. You can turn almost all of your upgrades off if you want, maybe for an added challenge. I don't know why you want to turn certain beams off unless you hate the freezing effect of the ice beam. Actually, you know what? Yeah, that's probably the exact reason why you do that. I get that. Samus still has a moon jump here, and I know for some it's kind of a turnoff, I get that, but with the run button, you can get an obnoxious amount of airtime. And later when you get the new speed booster where Samus can tackle through everything in her way like a bullet train after running enough distance, you can just go woo! It's so much fun, but my hands kind of hurt after a bit. It's weird, I can't fuck with the default controls of Super Metroid. Jump on A, dash on B, shoot on X? Ew, no, that doesn't work for me. I have the jump button set to B, the run button set to A, and the shoot button on Y. So a complete inversion to the default controls, but it works for me until I have to run, jump, and shoot at the same time. Then my fingers are like, ah, fuck you. The most obscure hidden technique has to be the crystal flash, the thing I mentioned in the comic book tie-in. It is unlikely as hell you'd ever use this because you have to be on death's doorway with a specific amount of missiles and power bombs in your inventory, not to mention you have to do an odd button combination, super situational. But you do it and Samus absorbs the power bomb and heals herself in this boss as fuck animation. And yeah, I just described it as boss as fuck. I'm cool. I can be hip. Late in the game, when you finally enter Torian and see the dried husks of other enemies, you know deep down, oh god, I shouldn't be here. But whatever, if it's a Metroid, I can take care of them no problem, as I have before. But then wham! The Super Metroid. It's actually the baby Metroid that's been fed some miracle growth, if you catch my drift. And luckily it recognizes Samus before it finishes the nasty suck, leaving in total shame afterwards. Great to see the child alive, but also my fucking heart. But you get to this guy and watch him fall into the lava, and you see his fucking face melt off. Look at that shit. The ESRB was formed shortly before this game's release, and some were wondering if that would affect the reception of the game. Yoshio Sakamoto stating that he wasn't worried because the violence wasn't for the sake of violence, but what the fuck do you call this then? Theater? Comedy? Seeing the bones knocked down the wall for one last scare was a funny moment though. There are things that you eventually learn when you happen to come across these critters that demonstrate them for you. They don't tell you exactly how to do it though, it's more of a show don't tell. And with the wall jump, I imagine that wouldn't be enough for some, and yeah, totally understandable. But once you do learn how to do these sort of techniques, that's it. It's part of your muscle memory forever, and it'd take every ounce of willpower in me to play this game without ever using the wall jump or shine spark again. I just can't do it. I want these missiles early. I want the wave beam now. I want to bomb jump and get this energy tank. I want to fight Kratos as early as possible. Who the hell is that guy? Super Metroid remains one of my favorites because of Samus's movement kit. Before, I just used to say, oh, it's because Super Metroid is so non-linear, man. Doesn't keep you in shackles, man. Meridia has two of my favorite enemies, though. I love the sound this snail makes when you boost through it. And my man Shack Tool, just a strange thing digging through the sand, minding its own business. You can move a little faster, my dude, I'm on the clock here. Leave it alone though, or you can't get the spring ball. Rock on, Shack Tool, I'm so sorry about what I'm about to do to this place. Then there's Mother Brain, back and static as ever. You take her down, her explosion not as seizure-inducing as before, gratefully. But then, holy shit, she's got arms, she's got legs, she's got knee pads. Okay, then does she skateboard on her spare time? Anyway, the planet goes kaboom, and that's that. Mission accomplished. We lost the kid, but Mother Brain is no more, the space pirates are no more. A bittersweet victory. Just don't think about the mother kaiju and her children. Don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. In case you haven't been made aware, I'm a pretty big fucking Metroid fan. Metroid Dread! Oh my god! I make it a thing to play this at least once or twice a year across different digital platforms because I have a lot of copies of this game. I have 2 physical copies of this because a friend of mine managed to snag one for me at a game store for me, and then the second was from another friend of mine that managed to snag one at a game store for me when I completely forgot that I already had a copy for that very reason. I am a dumbass, but I'm at a point where I just want you to play this game. It's so good. It's not for everyone, but man, if you like it and you start playing the other games because of that, and then you end up liking those too, that is a mission accomplished for me. Well, as much as I would love to review this game now, it's not just time for that yet. But it's close to Halloween, and that's kind of appropriate for this video, wouldn't you say? We're now at Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, a sequel 8 years in the making. So Metroid went into a close to 8-year hibernation, but then in early 2001, Nintendo would confirm that Metroid was coming to the new Game Boy Advance. Even had a showing at that year's E3, and it's kinda hard to make it out with this footage, but Metroid 4 had one hell of a different look and feel in its earliest stages. The black suit, the seemingly rotoscoped animations, walking on walls and ceilings like it's nothing. And in case you missed my community post I made earlier, I'll be saving my Metroid Prime revisit to when Metroid Prime 4 gets its confirmed release date. Looks like you guys wouldn't mind me re-reviewing the whole trilogy looking back, so okay, that's what I'll do. I'll even throw in Prime Pinball and Prime Hunters for good measure, because I like you. I played the hell out of this game on my original GBA wide model. We'll get into the simplified controls in a second, but this is one of those games that just feels so good on original hardware. I can't get enough of it. Just a heads up though, you might want to get some headphones and set the sound to stereo because this game on the GBA's tiny ass mono speaker is loud and crunchy. I actually scared the shit out of my friends in class one day playing this in school. I didn't think it'd be that loud, but it was funny seeing their reactions, and thankfully my handheld wasn't immediately confiscated afterwards. So experiment if you would.
Needed our services again,
By all means.
Alright. When the original GBA was released, the screen it was released with was rather poor quality, especially in handling the needed 15-bit colour gamut. Developers therefore would compensate this by exaggerating their colour choice, knowing they would look different on hardware. This is what you would call the identity matrix, as it's the raw RGB values that are sent to the screen. However, with modern displays and emulation, GBA games look like they had a fight with a clown circus, as the raw colour values now look overly bright, garish, or washed out.
I love Metroid Fusion, but it, like a lot of other early GBA games, oversaturated the color palette to make up for the lack of a backlit screen back then. And when you view it on like raw emulation or on a virtual console release, it's only more obvious, I think. Will you cut that out?
Oh, sorry. Couldn't resist trying out the GBA video filter.
The era before smartphones and streaming was a very bizarre time. Now that the Metroids were wiped out of existence in Metroid 2, upon killing what seemed to be some local wildlife, a mysterious gelatinous creature finds its way into Samus, with Samus apparently thinking, that was weird, and then goes back to her ship like nothing happened. I would have immediately made a beeline to the nearest Galactic Federation clinic if I saw anything go inside me, power suit or not. All seems well until Samus suddenly loses consciousness and drifts off into a nearby asteroid belt, destroying her ship in the process. Oh, goodbye, gunship. It was a good run. A vaccine created from Metroid DNA, created thanks to a cell culture preserved from the baby Metroid from the last game. It's later revealed that Metroids were the natural predator of the X, which is why the vaccine ended up working at all, but on a surface level, that seems kinda odd, isn't it? If I got bitten by a poisonous snake, I don't think injecting mongoose DNA would suddenly save my life, know what I mean? X parasites have managed to spread across the lab, and these motherfuckers are a seriously scary concept. If the first Metroid was inspired by Alien, this game was clearly inspired by The Thing, a movie to this day still manages to unnerve me in the best way possible. X-parasites can not only quickly kill whatever they infect, sometimes leaving nothing but the victim's bones, but they can also perfectly imitate their host and replicate like the gerbils and Rugrats. Not only that, but they can also absorb the knowledge and memories of their host. By far the scariest example has to go to the SAX, introduced with this lovely close-up, thanks for that game. So it turns out that classic Samus I saw in the previews was in fact an X-parasite mimicking Samus. The pieces of the power suit that were surgically removed still had plenty of X parasites inside them, and since the power suit was organic, as we learned in the Fusion intro, a living suit, that's gross, the X were able to replicate a Samus Aran at full power, but now it lacks a soul. Why is there a frozen Ridley carcass in the giant space slab freezer? What the flying shit? Someone's getting a power bomb up their ass for this one. But you get there anyway, you see the X assemble, and as it's happening, it plays a brief scare chord. When I heard that the first time, the hairs in my neck shot straight the hell up. Goodness, these things can just transform into large ass creatures on a whim. What the hell? And some of these assholes make some gut-wrenching noises. Saracen Sector 4 sounds like a bat out of hell when you damage it. And then that bat then gets a fist jammed up its ass when you kill it. But sometimes less is more, and Fusion is well aware of that. Adam said it best, if you see it, just run. And seeing just run highlighted in yellow back then was so striking to me. I should just run? Okay, got it. I was like a character in a horror flick running away from the unflinching sentinel. Only this one had a gun. The SAX is terrifying in concept and execution, but it's also incredibly dumb at times. It never gets the idea to check behind this wall no matter how much noise you make. What was that? What was that? What was that? It's no stranger to running loops back and forth, forward and back, and then forward and back, and then go forward and back, then put 1 foot forward. And thanks to the Federation, Samus will also slowly start getting upgrades sent through these data centers. So she downloads new upgrades in this game, and I can only imagine the download speeds the Federation must be rocking to achieve such a feat. Looks like a Wi-Fi connection too, so that's a doubly impressive. We have to routinely unlock security clearance to different sectors, giving us more places to investigate, while at the same time giving the X more places to swarm and infect. And it gets to a point where it's like, hey, maybe we should just head off and nuke the station from afar. It's already a lost cause. Didn't have to travel very far to see that. Something awakens in the AI, and suddenly it basically becomes a virtual Adam and helps Samus proceed with the plan to nuke the station and the planet. It's really weird, being honest. A part of me thinks it's just the AI letting Samus hear what she wants to hear to get her on her good side, but then I think, well, no, because at the end of the day, it does help Samus nuke the station, which the Federation definitely didn't want to happen, so it really is Adam somehow bypassing its coding and becoming a virtual sentient CO with a vaguely sexist tagline. Video games, sci-fi, fantasy, the fuck's happening here? The animals from the last game also steered my ship to help save the day. What? It's a little silly, seeing how some of these guys utilize the variability you're trying to absorb from them. The jumping condom that has the high jump, the spider that starts using the space jump when it loses its legs, but I still love it because this really emphasizes the general theme of the X parasite. What looks to be one thing can in fact change into something else entirely, except for Ridley X, which is just Ridley with his nuts in a vice. Control is also a little tighter, as Samus not only can grab ledges to keep platforming stabilized, which, thinking back, why did it take them 4 games to implement this kind of thing at all? You get so many power bombs in this game, the max being 74, which also makes 100% in this game kind of lame because that's all you're collecting most of the time, power bomb expansions. It's like, power bombs are cool, they kill everything in sight and reveal hidden passageways very easily, but they're also very loud. It's like a rabid cappuccino machine. It's fascinating to see what new creatures can form and block Samus's progression, and it's a great way to make the X feel unique as a threat. It's a quality I love about them. Needing to collect them for health and ammo, though, can be a little cumbersome because they're constantly moving, eventually leaving the screen altogether if you take too long compared to the static pickups to the last game. Please stay still, you jiggly booger. Metroid Zero Mission, a remake of the original game, once again led by the team over at Nintendo R&D 1. Yoshio Sakamoto not only returning as director, but he was also the writer for this one, the goal being to finally flesh out Samus's origin in the games proper without having to rely on obscure supplementary material. That said, there was obscure supplementary material for this anyway, and that was a Japanese exclusive 2-volume Metroid manga released throughout late 2003 and early 2004 in anticipation for the game. And I went and gave it a read since English translated scans are very easy to find with a Google search. You got the old bird returning, the elder Chozodian giving sage advice to those in need, but now there's also Grey Voice, a Chozo warrior that in respects is the closest thing Samus has to a father figure that gets some pretty badass moments before he's ultimately killed off by Ridley later in the comic. They even bring back Keaton, a character I liked from the comic. Oh fuck, I spoke too soon? Hardy's back. But Hardy here is nothing like the comic. Here, he's just a Federation hardass that gives his subordinate shit for slacking off, which is almost painfully ironic if you know Hardy's previous incarnation. Ridley is such a shit, taking every opportunity to gleefully be as sadistic as possible in every scene that he's in, taunting Samus as a child as things are going to shit, and then years later, mentally torturing her, saying that he might have eaten her mom to regenerate his health when he was in a bad spot. He steals the show like, God, you want to see Samus scorch this asshole, which you can do in the game proper. Maybe that's why they made him so unlikable. It's like, kill this motherfucker now for only $29.99. She's comforted by the remaining Chozo telling her to let it all out, that they're proud of her and everything she's done. And that panel where she just screams her fucking ass off, letting it all go. Oh my God, this just makes me hate the other MC even more because they got it right the first time in the manga. Why didn't they just pay respect to that over... Ooh. Though if you have the time, I'd still recommend you try out Metroid Mother, a mod of the NES game that has some decent quality of life updates, like a mini-map for one thing, and beam upgrades that stack, hallelujah. I played this a couple of months ago thinking I was going to cover it during the first video, but I figured it was more appropriate for this one since we're on the topic of Metroid 1 redos. I think the game graphically is a slight step back from Fusion, and that mainly falls on Samus's design. I love the power suit, but her sprites move at like double speed and look about as jerky as the NES game. And that was likely intentional now that I'm saying it out loud. And if you could believe it, the original plan was just to make her sprite an updated version of the NES one. Check out the early prototype footage. Look at that head, it's so goddamn big! Ledge grabbing from Fusion? She needs a power up to do that here, strangely though. Didn't need that for Fusion, unless the power grip is one of those abilities she didn't lose. But I couldn't ledge grab in Super, but I could ledge grab in Samus Returns. Continuity sucks! However, not all upgrades are immediately available because there's a couple of ancient Chozo statues that hold power-ups your current suit can't. Okay, one moment here. I gave it a pass during Fusion because I figured it was just a one-off thing, but Zero Mission did it again. What's with the curved arm cannon? How the fuck does that work? It doesn't. If Samus's cannon was curved, that motherfucker's hitting nothing but solid ground. I'm sorry, I just don't understand why the cannon in the status screen is bent. It's like they overlaid a cannon graphic over the natural bend of her arm. It's, anyway, sorry for getting distracted. Yeah, there's a few upgrades Samus can't immediately use because her suit is, to quote the game, incompatible. Not updating the firmware so you can make your suit an emulator, Samus? I mean, I also don't like the expansion pass's new prices. Perhaps the true space pirate was inside us all along. But no, this doesn't make any sense, even if it does have a tremendous payoff in the last third of the game. Apparently, it's a callback to the 3 sacred treasures of Kid Icarus because Metroid 1 and Kid Icarus shared developers. And okay, sure, but why? Actual space pirates to boot. And man, I always thought these guys were more like an army of mantis men, but I see these guys on their big meaty claws and okay, they're crab people. Lobsters maybe? This game does a good job of making them feel like a threat though, because they're all over the battleship during the game's stealth sequence where you lose your suit, and you can't fight them head on, they'll massacre your ass, and themselves, fucking dumbasses. The game has never veered away from using sex appeal as an incentive. I mean, to some that's the entire point of completing the game faster. They want Samus in a bikini or a skimpy outfit. I guess now that everyone knows that Samus is a woman and the mystique is gone, they said, fuck it, just give them more ass. So lap it up, you fucking pervs. There's a spiderweb on this thing, what the fuck? What's funny is that the health of the final boss, this out of nowhere Robo Ridley, what the fuck is this? This dude goes down in seconds like a chump if you don't bother getting every item. 100% of the game though, especially in hard mode, this motherfucker can suddenly take a lot of pain and fucking two-shot you. Ow. The devs put these intentional shortcuts throughout the game, letting you either skip items you don't really need or skip some mini-bosses completely, allowing you to do things like tackling Ridley first in homage to the original game. I love doing this route because by the time I get to Kraid, I already have super missiles and it's like, hi Kraid, bye Kraid. For all of you senior citizens that have been with me when this game originally came out in 2010, you might remember me absolutely despising this game with every fiber of my being. This game pissed me off as a Metroid fan, as a Samus fan. It struck just about every negative chord within my very soul, and afterwards I wanted nothing to do with it. I remember even going as far as thinking, this Yoshio Sakamoto doesn't know what he's doing, get me the original creators back for the next one. Completely ignoring that Yoshio Sakamoto has been with the franchise since the very beginning and now just being a young, ignorant dipshit. 2010 was a good year for Nintendo Wii fans. We had the second Super Mario Galaxy, Sonic got Sonic Colors, Donkey Kong made his return, and the second No More Heroes title dropped in, but out of all of those, Metroid Other M was my most anticipated release. This wasn't a first-person adventure like the Prime series, it was a third-person action-adventure title with Team Ninja behind the wheel. And Team Ninja, yeah, I'm sure a lot probably thought, boobies. But I was also like, oh shit, the Ninja Gaiden devs? I never played the 3D titles, but I was more than aware of their positive reception. Okay, cool. This was like the Metal Gear of Metroid games, a title not only presenting a story right out of a feature-length film, but a story that would finally go into Samus Aran as a character, who she was as a person, a bounty hunter, and her upbringing. That was the intent anyway. Whether they succeeded is ultimately up to you. I don't think it did, but I'm just me. Control was one thing, the story direction was another, and this was also something Sakamoto wanted full control over, and well, results may certainly fucking vary on that, wouldn't you say? Oh god, this fucking story. Well, we should probably get into the nitty gritty now, and before I begin, there's something I wanted to discuss real quick. Now, ever since I made it known that I was heading back into Other M for a proper Versus video, man, I can't tell you how many times I was told about how things were lost in translation when Other M's story was dubbed in English and how the story ultimately suffers from it. I will be commentating on the story through its English translation for the record, and if you're worried about me being an overly negative Nancy about this whole thing, don't worry, I'm not gonna be. Honestly, guys, I'm gonna be more of a ambivalent Agnes because the story is a whole bunch of fucking nothing. But also like the BSL station, something sinister brews within its steel walls, but it's not parasites this time, it's man. Samus agrees by deactivating all of her most dangerous weapons like power bombs, and even goes the extra mile and deactivates all of her defensive upgrades like the Varia and Gravity Suit that do nothing but protect Samus because hey, let's go the distance in trying to win back Adam's good graces, you fucking idiot. Did you catch the maternity themes? Samus's fixation on the baby Metroid that saved her life, Madeline Bergman's mother and daughter relationship with MB, the fact that the station is called the Bottle Ship, how Metroid Other M's acronym is MOM, or how Other M can be arranged to spell mother. Yeah, I think you get it. This scene right here is the only time they have some sort of heart-to-heart together, but it's right before Adam sacrifices himself in a moment that is not as emotional as intended because it is not earned. I do not care for this man, and the only reason this scene is even possible is because Adam shot Samus in the back while she was in front of a fucking Metroid that was on the attack. What does she see in this guy? Also, the Chozo, they are not even mentioned once in Other M's narrative. Samus is talking about how Adam was like this father she never had, but I'm like, hello? You had Grey Voice? You had the Chozo. It's so weird how this game just completely ignores her upbringing from the bird people. Who is this version of Samus? A glorified, borderline submissive Barbie doll so desperately yearning for the approval of her former CO, made to appeal to a dwindling Japanese market that didn't care for the Metroid franchise then, and after this game, certainly didn't care for the series afterwards. Looking back, that was more in response to its terrible story. Because as a game, Metroid Other M, and I really mean this, it's fine, especially in future playthroughs where you can skip the cutscenes. But you can still make combat a little more engaging thanks to some nifty combat maneuvers you can execute on certain enemies, like hopping on top of them and giving them some point-blank love, or getting them in a chokehold and blasting their fucking face in. The lethal strike, I think it's called, and when utilized correctly, it's always great to see in action. Also, not a fan of the mandatory walking segments. You're running around exploring rooms and suddenly you find Samus going, alright, my legs hurt, let's slow it down. It's in service to the story, yeah, but since I hate the story, and especially on repeated playthroughs, these are just slow and plotting sections that I wish I could skip over. Some have a good sense of humor, though. I like the Excel charge you can find in the women's bathroom, and I don't know why, but seeing this employee lounge makes me laugh. It's like, who broke into the vending machines and scattered the items like an asshole here? Was it the deleter? Did they not have Jamie's favorite brand of chips? What a prick. The Switch is on, Amiibo's on standby, get them while they're hot, they won't be that cheap for long. Metroid Dread is, at last, a reality. The long-awaited sequel to Metroid Fusion that's been a concept in Sakamoto's head since the mid-2000s. The game that was cheekily referenced in a scan log in Metroid Prime 3. This wasn't a Prime game, this wasn't a spin-off, this wasn't an other. This was Metroid 5. Besides a continued presence in Smash Bros., and I think there was a Nintendo Land attraction? That was a Coke dream, wasn't it? In 2016, when they finally broke the silence and gave us Metroid Prime Federation Force, that was the last thing people wanted to hear, and Federation Force, while a good time with friends, I'll say that again and again, it was dead on arrival. But then, a year later, we got a sudden but very much welcomed remake of Metroid 2, Metroid Samus Returns, that was unfortunately shadowed by the release and takedown of AM2R earlier the previous year, but still Metroid was back in the public eye, and positive reception towards Samus Returns, despite its average sales, and the anticipation for the later announced Metroid Prime 4, got people excited once again for the series to make a comeback. Something Mercury's team was likely counting on because a cool little secret in Samus Returns gallery promised dreadful things to come. Boy, this box is huge! You're damn right I got the special edition when it was available. This is actually happening, isn't it? Witnessing Samus retell events in Fusion and how she got to this point, I feel like a teenager again. I've waited for this game for so long, so even on my 3rd or 4th playthroughs, I'm still excited reflecting that I'm playing the 5th mainline Metroid game. We're finally continuing the story. Also, not the kind of voice I was expecting from Adam.
The bounty for this mission does not seem appropriate.
That is weird. I was expecting a little more HAL 9000. In fact, all the digital voices inside Samus's ship sound less sophisticated than your standard Alexa or Siri you can hear on your phone. What the fuck? The Federation sucks.
There are a lot of voices in my head, and Jen Taylor is one of them.
Later during the venture, Samus encounters Quiet Robe, a Chozo of the Thoha tribe who had the ability to control Metroids on planet SR388. And then we get this unapologetic plot dump in a game that was pretty reserved up until this point. And I would say it's the slowest part of the game, suddenly getting this chunky cutscene, but I personally was just glued to the TV when he showed up because, oh my god, it's a Chozo! In the video games, they're finally doing something with the Chozo! So needless to say, Ravenbeak is tremendously pissed off, but looking at the silver lining, he wants to harvest Samus's DNA since after the events of Fusion, she's now part Metroid, and part bird, and part parasite, which itself is an amalgamation of a lot of other things. Fuck, Samus is a walking petri dish of collective shit. But Samus, in an awesome moment, assures Quiet Robe, in their native tongue no less, that she will deal with Ravenbeak once and for all. And then Quiet Robe is assassinated by a robotic Chozo guard, and I'm like, oh fuck, but Samus is like, hey, that wasn't very nice. And after causing some mayhem, Samus indirectly lets the parasites out, and all I could think of out loud seeing these colorful jellies roam free is that I fucked up. Samus's Metroid DNA has fully activated, giving her the ability to siphon energy with her left hand. That she uses a couple of times after the fact to drain the energy of a few enemies. And Samus, you just blatantly stole Ride Stick from Revenge, let's give it back, it doesn't belong to you. Ravenbeak may not have the Metroids anymore, but he can still make the ultimate warrior out of Samus's DNA, and even reveals that her Chozo DNA contains a bit of Malkin, which Ravenbeak donated in hopes of one day using Samus for his conquest of the galaxy. Samus wants none of that, and in a vicious one-on-one fight, the two clash with Ravenbeak coming out on top once again. That is until Samus goes fucking apeshit as the Metroid inside her pushes Ravenbeak's shit in. God damn, she is so pissed! And she's not just draining Ravenbeak, but his entire fucking fortress is getting the good suck! I didn't know Metroids could do that, but Samus is saying none of the rules. She is the Metroid now. And holy shit, what is this suit? Oh my god, a Metroid suit! Looks like a praying mantis watermelon hybrid, which I believe given how much shit Samus has inside her now. But Ravenbeak is still alive, but not for long, as a Roman X parasite kills off what remains, turning him into a hybrid of himself, and oh Jesus, poor Kraid. But Samus's newfound power also brings back the Hyper Beam, no longer a multicolored Skittle Beam, but a full-fledged Kamehameha that she uses to obliterate Raven Kraid once and for all. She doesn't even take the opportunity to absorb the remaining parasite, she just fucking nukes it out of the sky. God, I love that moment. Fuck this guy. Quiet Robe X suddenly appears and then deliberately gets absorbed by Samus so that she can fully control her Metroid powers, giving her access to the ship's controls. God, I was so fascinated by this one scene. It was great to see that even beyond death, Quiet Robe was there to help Samus. But then my mind started racing. Oh shit, so do the Chozo just have amazing willpower to override the parasite's control? Or was the X's survival instinct kicking in to get off the planet? Or maybe it was the parasite genuinely helping Samus because it absorbed Quiet Robe's memories? Does this mean a host's memories can interfere with the parasite's instincts? Oh, maybe the scientist in Fusion wasn't trying to nuke Samus with the station. Maybe he was fighting from within to kill the parasites. This ending had me going places. God, I fucking love this game. It's here. Metroid Dread is here. It's weird how there's no different endings for early completion times. You just get Samus going, yeah, that just happened. Chozo statues, it's great to see you again. Time to recharge my health and ammo. Oh, fuck, it doesn't work in this game. Well, shit, now what do I do? It's funny too because you can find ammo for the power bomb way before you actually get the upgrade, but the game calls it an unknown resource, likely a callback to Zero Mission, and it's like, Samus, you know it's a power bomb expansion, just say fuck when you pick it up, I'd get it. Emmys are kind of the logical evolution of the SAX concept, each having a different ability they can use to hunt Samus down. The yellow Emmy is probably the worst one because it has the speed booster, and this thing just fucking zooms towards your ass when it spots you. It's so intimidating. The Wave Beam Emmy is also a humongous jerk-off because it can see through walls, and that's just not fair.
Accept your helplessness.
If you get caught, you do have a brief, very brief window to escape with a proper counter, but since the timing is next to impossible to get down, you might as well call it a night. Dread uses every face button, and the D-pad, and both analog sticks for a different function. Jumping, shooting, directional aiming, missile loading, the grapple beam, speed boosting and shine sparking. The returning 360-degree aiming from Samus returns. Very happy to see that brought back. Samus has a slide now, keeping the pace going when she comes across tiny gaps. And you get your mileage out of this too because Dread keeps that classic morph ball away from you for an agonizingly long time for Metroid veterans. I jumped for joy when I finally got her from the third Emmy droid, but I'm also like, what the fuck? That took so long! But I was amazed to see that the slide was still very useful for exploration and combat. I am so happy Metroid Dread came out as well as it did, and I want to apologize for something. Some of you were expecting me to do a Sonic Mania-esque freakout, which for the record I'm glad is like the new standard in how much I enjoy new things for franchises I love, but here's the thing. That freakout was mainly out of Sega finally giving me something I wanted for over 20 years after dealing with mediocrity on top of mediocrity. Yes, Metroid has a similarly scattered history, but its track record, if you don't include Other M's story, is, I think, more positive and consistent. I know with Metroid, I'm generally getting a good time, so I had little doubt that Metroid Dread with Mercury Steam on board especially, and from what I saw in previews, it was gonna be great. And plus I already came in my pants when I reacted to the initial reveal. Metroid Dread! Oh my god! After the holidays, this might be one of the best-selling Metroid games of all time, and that's what I want to see and hear, baby. Metroid's back! Now all I need is for Metroid Prime 4 to be amazing, and man, I really hope it is. Hopefully I'm not jinxing anything, but we'll have to wait and see when we eventually get that first trailer.